Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, we've got a very special guest. She is a NCAA All-American for the University of Georgia, Pan-Pacific champion, World University Games champion. She's been to 3 Olympic trials, which is extremely relevant today because she is the lowest seeded qualifier to make an Olympic trials final ever, which it has a big impact on the recent news that the 2021 Olympic trials has been split into 2 different meets, Wave 1 and Wave 2. Today, we are talking to Morgan Scroggy.
Hello. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You made top 8 at the 2008 Olympic trials, going in seeded 41st in the 200 back, and that is why USA Swimming decided to set those Wave 2 Olympic trial cuts at where the 41st seed of each person is at in each event right now. So to start off this conversation, when you heard this news, can you tell me your reaction? What did you think about that?
Yeah, I was totally shocked. I mean, it's sort of a cool statistic. One that certainly I didn't think I would have been the one to have, made the final from the lowest seed. So I was shocked. I thought it was pretty neat. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty much how it felt.
Yeah. I mean, again, as I mentioned, you've been to 3 U.S. Olympic trials, 2004, 2008, 2012. I mean, when you heard this news, and especially considering, those top cuts are where the 41st seeded person in each event stands right now, you can qualify for those cuts in the next 6 months. Do you think that that's a fair way of doing it, considering, this global pandemic and the state of where our country is at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of crazy stuff happening this year. And I've said from the very beginning of the pandemic that I'm glad that I'm not the one who has to make any of these decisions. So, I mean, I understand the decision to try to make the meets smaller, or I guess to try to make the one meet smaller. I think no matter what you do, some people are going to be upset about it, but I think that's just the way it goes. And they had to pick some standard to go off of. So it's logical. It makes sense to me that they did it this way.
When you were competing, I mean, the Olympic trials is the pinnacle for so many athletes in our sport, because obviously only 2 athletes per event make the actual Olympic team. And so trials, you just have to get the time. It's always been attainable because it's not top however many percent. It's just you get the time, you can go. That's a really big accomplishment for a lot of high schoolers, for a lot of collegiate swimmers, a lot of post-collegiate swimmers. When you were chasing, you went to 3 Olympic trials, as we've said. When you were chasing that Olympic trials dream, that Olympic dream, what did it mean to you just as an athlete to have that goal in mind that you knew you could achieve?
Yeah, I mean, it meant everything at the time that we were swimming. Me and my teammates, I feel like we all kind of felt the same way, that, like we said, this was the pinnacle of our careers and the chance to take it one step further. And I always kind of joked about the meet. So many people go into it with these high expectations, and very few out of that huge amount of people that get to go to the meet, very few actually achieve the dream, right, of going to the meet. So it's full of a few people making their dreams and a lot of people being more or less heartbroken that they didn't make it. So yeah, I think in the moment, in the time that I was there, I was very much like, this is make or break. And it meant everything to be there and to take the shot and go for it. Looking back at it now, sort of from where I am today, I'm just so grateful that I had the chance to be there and compete. And I hope that everybody just enjoys it because, from 10 years removed, yeah, it's a great joy, and just something that it's really fun to think back on it and know that I got to experience that stuff.
I mean, it is a really big accomplishment. And more than that, as you said, it's just a joy. Swimming is so fun, and competing at the highest level, while certainly it can bring nerves and be scary, and, it can also be really exciting and really fun. I've been to 2016 trials. I was at 2012 trials. My brother competed at both of them. And I'm a little curious as to how the environment may have changed, or if at all, since '08 and '12. So I kind of want to go step by step through your trials experiences. And I want to start with that 2008 trials where you did make the final, that you did make the top 8. Heading into that meet, was it a surprise to make the final?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I considered my best events freestyle, sort of mid distance, 200 free, 100 free. So those were the events that I went in concentrating on, and probably put more pressure on myself to perform in those events. And I don't even remember how I did, but I remember in the 200 back, making the semifinal, which was a shock. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then, of course, parading out in front of that venue, that humongous arena that they put the pool in, is so fun. They've got flames and fireworks and all kinds of music going on. It really feels like you're a star, you're in the middle of this huge arena. And I think because it wasn't my main event, it was kind of a bonus event for me at the time. That I just went out and I truly was just enjoying the experience and having fun, probably hyped up a little bit on the adrenaline of the meet and the moment. And I think that's what helped me swim better than I thought, and make those finals. So it was a shock to make the semifinal. It was a bigger shock to make the final after that. So, but it was a wonderful, great experience.
Do you remember your reaction after both were you in semifinal 1 or 2?
I don't remember. I think what I remember is swimming it with Mary DeSenza. I think she had made that final as well, and maybe we were in the same heat. Honestly, I can't remember. But
do you remember your reaction to when you realized that you did make the final from the semis?
Yeah, I mean, it was overwhelming joy and shock, and just like almost disbelief. Like, did that really just happen? Did I just make the finals? And then I think after that, you sort of start to think, well, okay, I just made the finals when I didn't expect to. Could I make the Olympics? Could I make it in this event? And I think going from the shock and the joy of it to putting a little bit of expectation on, maybe now I actually want to try to make this meet in this event, put just a little bit of pressure on there, that not that it takes the joy away, but it adds a little bit of pressure. I think that probably got to my head a little bit, because I think I ended up getting 7th in that final, which was great for me, for someone who didn't even expect to be in the final. So
the only way I can describe my experience at an Olympic trials is working from a media perspective is a roller coaster. There's so many ups and downs, and I feel like what you just described is that you have an immense up, and then immediately it not a down necessarily, but just, whoa, what now? And then that pressure starts sinking in. Can you compare the feeling before that semifinal race to the feeling before that final race?
It's hard to distinguish and remember the different feelings. I think going out the semifinals, it was pure just joy and excitement and fun, and not really knowing what to expect. And then I think going out for the finals, I had put a little bit of pressure on myself and a little bit more expectation of, you might be able to pull something off here. So yeah, I mean, I think going out to the semifinals, I was a little bit more relaxed, and then all of a sudden realizing a little bit more pressure going on to the finals was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. And had you swam the freestyle events at that point? Was that your last event of the meet? Do you remember?
I cannot remember the format. um, because I know I didn't make the semifinals in the 200 free, but I think I had swum a best time, so I didn't have any reason to be disappointed with that meet really at all. It was an exciting meet. I was there with my teammates from Georgia. I was coming off my freshman year. I had a really good year, and speaking of, it was kind of my breakout year, that 2008 2009 season. So it doesn't surprise me that I came from a lower seed and got a lot better, because I did that sort of throughout those 2 years in a lot of events. So um, it's just kind of where my swimming career was at that time, and yeah, I got to do a lot of cool things because of it.
Yeah. And I would like to come back to that a little later in this podcast. But taking it back to 2004 Olympic trials, you're coming off your freshman year of high school,
Mm-hmm.
and that was before USA Swimming had migrated to Omaha. 2008 was the first, kind of big show in the arena. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, 2004 Olympic trials in Long Beach in a parking lot.
It may have been a parking lot. Yeah, I think they built the whole stadium. They built like all the stands and then the platform that the pool sat on. Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
all outside.
and it was all outside.
Yeah,
Which, to just thinking about that, it's like, what? How does that work? And I've been to plenty of national meets in Irvine, and that's
right.
outside, and it's a little different. But to envision Olympic trials, it's like, whoa. So I mean, again, coming off of freshman year of high school, you're 15 years old, first Olympic trials outdoors in California. What was that like?
That was an amazing experience as well, because I had made that meet 2 or 3 weeks before the meet actually started. So I was one of those who just barely got in by the skin of my teeth. And again, in an off event, we were in Texas a couple weeks before, I think, University of Texas, swimming like a last chance meet. And I swam the 200 free and didn't quite make it, and was really upset and disappointed. And then had the 100 fly, where again, I was like, well, I didn't make it. I'm just going to swim this for fun and see what happens. And I made the meet. I went a best time by a lot and made the trial cut. And I remember at that point feeling a little frustrated, because I was like, well, how can I pour all my energy into this event, but yet this other event over here is the one where I end up doing better? So it was mixed emotions from that standpoint. But I mean, to be able to go to the meet and experience it and swim and see, all of my heroes at that point, all the people that I looked up to. And gosh, I think I remember Katie Hoff swimming at that meet, like carrying a teddy bear as she walked down for her final swims, and just, yeah, getting there and being there and feeling like, I can do this. I can be here again, and these are real people. So it was great at that point to be able to experience it.
And you answered my follow-up question, which is, as a young kid at that Olympic trials, what do you gain? Why do you go? What do you take away from there? And like you said, humanizing your idols, and seeing, hey, I can compete, I can be in this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the experience is sort of invaluable. I mean, the format of the meet is one of a kind for USA Swimming, in that you have to do semifinals and then finals, at least at the time.
Mhm.
No other meet, nationals wasn't like that. So again, I was swimming the 100 fly, not expecting too much, but made the semifinal kind of out of nowhere. Went a
Really?
best time again. And so just to be able to parade down the pool deck in front of all those people, it just, having been there once before, the next time you do it, it just feels a little bit less stressful, a little bit more like, this is familiar. I know what's going to happen. And it just calms those nerves a little bit more the next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you remember how nervous you were for that 100 fly semi in 2004?
I don't, again, I don't think my expectation was was to be able to make it. You know, I was kind of just there enjoying the experience. So I think, again, I had just a lot of joy at the meet and a lot of excitement and just happy to be there. I do remember swimming the semifinal and on my turn taking in a mouthful of water and saying, well, that's why I didn't make the final, because I was choking halfway back. So
As a butterflyer, I know I've certainly been there. I'm sure a
yeah,
lot of butterflyers can relate.
absolutely.
Choking on the water is the worst. So, so that 2004 Olympic trials, as you said, in 2008, we're in Omaha. It's this huge show. I'm just curious, kind of as a swimming fan, you know, what was the environment like in 2004? Again, it being outside. You know, you can't. I'm guessing the acoustics are a little different. I don't know if the crowd was like as hyped and massive. What can you give me a little description of what the environment itself of the meet was like?
Yeah, I mean, it felt sort of like larger than life. It felt like the biggest arena that swimming had ever been on. And I think at that point, too, they had all these special effects going on as they paraded people in for semifinals and finals. And yeah, like you said, the acoustics was amazing. They had, you know, a big TV screen, being able to show a bunch of things as the meet was going on. Um, and then just being in a stadium that size, just all those people that were there, I think not being open to the air, all of the noise kind of gets reflected back into the building and into the people that are there. So it just felt so much bigger, you know. And it was fun because I was there with my teammates, you know, my college teammates, and there was a big group of us there. We were all, you know, enjoying the meet together. And I think that helped a lot. Made it feel more like a team event, I guess.
Yeah, I think one thing that sticks, or a moment that sticks out to me from the 2016 trials, is the first night, the Georgia team losing their mind as Jay Litherland passed Ryan Lochte in the last 50 of the 400 IM and made the team. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Behind Chase, another Bulldog.
It's amazing to be there with your teammates because they know how hard you work. They know how much it means to you, and just to know that, you know, that they're going to have your back, and to pull something off that no one expects and just see them go crazy. I mean, it would fire anybody up, you know. It makes everybody really excited and just happy to be there.
And like you said, we all know how much of a grind swimming can be, how hard of a sport it can be. And just to be able to get that achievement, to go there and swim with joy, swim with excitement, celebrate all that hard work, and especially with the people you put that hard work in, I'm sure that that's a gratifying feeling.
Definitely. Absolutely.
So then jumping to the 2012 trials, can you compare that to the 2008, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, the 2012 trials were hard for me. I had a lot of expectation and a lot of goals. You know, I felt like my whole swimming career was kind of mounting on me, and just, you know, I think that was sort of my, I don't know, lack of experience, lack of life experience at that time, where I really felt like this was the pinnacle of my life. You know, I just put so much pressure on myself. Um, and I really didn't know what I was going to do when I stopped swimming. And if I didn't make the meet, I was going to be done swimming. So yeah, it was it was great to be back in Omaha, back in that venue. Um, you know, it was, again, it didn't disappoint with excitement, you know, and all the big fireworks and stuff. So it was still a really fun meet. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the expectation that you put on yourself. You know, are you going in with joy and excitement, or are you going in with a whole bunch of pressure on your shoulders?
I I love that perspective. One person we've had on the podcast that comes to mind with that is Katie Miley, um, the Olympian in 2016, who is now a lawyer, and that's a big emphasis for her, is that what made swimming doable for her throughout the later years in her career was having that focus outside of swimming, kind of developing that identity beyond being a swimmer. And I think that's something a lot of swimmers, a lot of athletes can struggle with, or aren't taught how to do necessarily, because it's always just, chasing those swimming goals. And then, like you said, if you don't make it, then you're done and that's it.
Right.
Um, you said those trials were hard. How did you grapple with that? Not only the disappointment of not making that, or maybe not meeting those expectations, but also of moving on, of losing your sport, and now what am I doing next?
Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, that it's such a good question because I still grapple with it. Like 10 years later, right? I like will have dreams that I'm still swimming, that I'm back at Olympic trials, or that I'm back on the deck with, Georgia. And you wake up and you're just like, man, that was such a lifetime ago. And why am I still dreaming about it like it was yesterday? And I think the truth is it's such a big part of our lives when we're in it and when we're doing it, that naturally it's going to stick with us, as we move on. And I think I've carried all of the lessons that I've learned through swimming into my work life, into my career. I think I've found a lot more peace with my swimming career. I think when it first ended, I was pretty disappointed, but looking back at it, I've had great experiences, built amazing friendships. I can really look back at it now and be proud of what I was able to do, where, yeah, it took a little bit of time. It didn't feel like that right away, but it certainly does now.
And again, I think you have a unique perspective, especially for maybe younger listeners listening now, to where I think the sport has grown a lot financially in the last 10 years, in the last decade. You graduated college in 2011 and then stuck around that next year for the 2012 trials, and then you were done. Did you want to continue your swimming career after, and it just wasn't a viable option for you financially or otherwise, or were you ready to be done at that point?
I was pretty ready to be done. I'd had a challenging couple years, maybe year and a half or so. I had not necessarily injuries, but just things in my body that were hurting that hadn't hurt before. So I felt a little bit like my body was kind of saying, we need to be done with this. And it's just really hard. It takes so much out of you. And I remember being done, sort of getting past the first couple of weeks of disappointment and just feeling the sense of relief. Like, I can go skiing and not worry about breaking my ankle. Like, I can go do fun things. I can go out for a run and not worry about, am I gonna ruin my taper, or silly things like that. And it really did feel a little bit more free just to be done. So yeah, I mean, I think moving on from it was a challenge at first, and then eventually, yeah, it sinks in, and you appreciate kind of what you had. I think my view towards swimming now, I try to occasionally I dip back into it. There's a masters team here in Columbus that I've swum with every now and then, and if it's been too long since I swam, I will start to think, oh, maybe I could get back into it. Maybe I could go to like Masters Nationals and just have fun. And then I'll go to a practice, swim 100 and be like, nope, I'm good. That was really hard. So yeah, I mean, it still comes in waves of like, do I want to get back into it? Do I want to be a little bit more serious about swimming? And I go to practice and hang out with those people on the masters team and just have some fun and realize that this is a really hard sport, and to be kind to myself and just try to have fun and know that swimming can also be really healthy. for you. I mean, that's the other thing. When you stop swimming, your body changes immediately. And that's another challenge of like, how do I manage the way I used to eat or behave while I swam versus how do I eat and behave now that I'm not swimming and working out that much. So it's a crazy journey. If I could sum it up in 2 words, it's crazy and it's a roller coaster, like you said.
I relate to so much of what you just said. I also have similar dreams, 10 plus years out of my small swimming career. And I also get those like, well, maybe I could like, yeah, get in shape and start swimming, get in swim shape and start swimming 5 days a week and maybe go to a meet. And then I'll, I'll swim 2 practices in a row and be like, oh, no. That's not
Yeah.
what I want. And the other,
Yeah. Well, so I caught myself a couple of times closer, like when I was maybe only a couple years out of it, and just thinking, okay, what year is it? Where are we in the season? How long would it take me to get in shape? Could I make it? Could I be ready for the next big meet? And every time I caught myself and I'd be like, no, what am I doing? Like, this is not, I'm ready to move on from this. And it really is like, I'm totally ready to move on from it. But at the same time, something kind of draws you back in. And it's the excitement of it, the hype of it. Like you said, being there with your teammates and having that community. There's something about it just pulls you back in and makes you wonder, what if?
yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, it was such a big commitment, such a big part of your life for so long, that you're used to that way of doing things. And the other day, I said to someone on the Masters team, it's like, I just realized like last week being over a decade out of like swimming competitively, I don't like swimming fast. I just like swimming normally,
Yeah.
just like at a slow pace and like thinking about technique. Like that's enjoyable to me now. But you're so tuned into, okay, well, I got to make this time and I got to go this pace and my heart rate has to be here. It's like, I don't, no, just
As
hang
soon
out.
as soon as our coach puts the clock out at the side of the pool and you can all of a sudden see how fast you're actually going, that's when it clicks in for me, is like, okay, I just went that time. Can I go a little bit faster on my next one?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so swimming can be such a process to let go of, to take a new journey with, once you're so again tuned into competitive swimming. But outside the water, once you were done, what are some ways that you found helpful to find out who you were other than a swimmer and an athlete?
Yeah, it was a really long journey. I think the thing that has helped me the most in these recent years has been yoga and meditation. I know that probably sounds silly, but I found yoga within a couple years of being in Columbus, and it's morphed into a lot of different things along the way. But one of the great gifts I think it's given is being gentle and forgiving with yourself, and knowing that if you don't feel good this day, you don't have to go work out. And I think that's something that swimming sort of ingrains in you, is every single day show up at the pool and do your best and sort of ignore how your body is feeling. At least that's kind of how I did my swimming career. And yeah, one of the greatest things that I feel like I have now is to pay attention to how I'm feeling and to care about how I'm feeling. So that has been, I think, the best sort of healer, sort of thing that's helped me move on and sort of accept, the things that happened in my swimming career, and appreciate everything, all of the great things that happened. So,
My mom's a yoga teacher, and she'll say something to me about the practice of yoga or the principles of yoga, and I'll be like, okay. And then days or weeks or months or years later, it'll finally sink in. I'll be like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. But I
Yep.
think coming from that swimming mindset, yeah, it's like direct opposite of what you were taught as a swimmer, as a competitive athlete, as opposed to just a human trying to move through life.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean the other thing that really kind of hit home with me was diet. So I'm a vegetarian, vegan now, but it took me a long time to sort of figure out my path and, what food is, what it means to your body, um, all of the kind of things that surround food and emotion and kind of how all that plays into each other. I mean, like we said, as soon as I stopped swimming, my body changed. And it was like a bit of a shock. And then, so kind of realizing, food is impacting my body, it's also impacting my emotions and how I'm feeling. And so that was a whole journey in and of itself, too, was just, you know, how do I manage the fact that I don't need to eat nearly as much as I used to what kinds of food I should be eating, what's healthy, what's not. I mean, I feel like we were never taught. I mean, thinking back, we definitely had access to, nutrition and people to help with that. But I feel like I had no idea. Like I thought a hot dog was healthy because it was meat and it was protein. So, um, just paying attention, I think, to your body again and how it feels and how certain foods make you feel. So, that was another big part of my journey of sort of self-awareness and what's going to help me move forward.
Hmm. And we kind of answered this before, but I think this is a good way to end this conversation. But again, that Olympic dream, that Olympic trials dream, such a big part of many swimmers' careers, lives, goals, achievements. Looking back on it now, how do you analyze having that dream of going to an Olympic trials, going to an Olympics, and is that something applicable to your daily life now?
Well, I I sort of feel like my goals as a swimmer were very narrow and very unforgiving. Um, but I also feel like it sort of set up the framework of how do you set a goal and work towards it and build a plan to get there. And I think that has been kind of one of my biggest shocking realizations going into the real world is in interacting with people that didn't swim their whole lives or people who didn't even do sports necessarily. um, just seeing their struggle with goal setting and kind of what that means and a lot of fear around goal setting and not wanting to set goals because they don't want to be they don't want to fail or be tied to doing something they don't want to do. So I feel like I've been given a foot up in my ability to sort of identify goals for myself and then achieve them. So I think that, and that was something, my friends here in Columbus, they said to me one time, it's like, I know whatever goal you set, you're going to achieve, whether it's, like a dry January or some other like 5K run or something, they have no doubt in their mind that I'm going to achieve whatever goal I set. And to me, that's so funny because, my biggest goal in swimming at the time in my mind, I didn't achieve it. And so it's just funny to know that even though I didn't get to the tip top of where I wanted to go, I made and hit so many other goals along the way. And yeah, it set me up, I think, ahead of the game for life after swimming.
It's a great answer. Some really good insight. If you're listening, just about swimming and what swimming can give you, especially for life after swimming.
Yeah.
Morgan, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me for a bit today. Is there any parting thoughts you have before we sign off?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been really fun to kind of dive back into swimming these past couple of days. I've had friends sort of shoot me the article and say, "Hey, look, it's you." So it's been fun. I feel a little bit more engaged in the swimming world than I have in a little while. Um, and I just would say good luck to everybody swimming. This is an exciting year, an exciting time, even though it got delayed a year because of all the craziness. But I would just say, yeah, I wish the best of luck to everybody.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.